My name is Craig Herring. I'm a principal architect for a small Midwest company called Kinney Group, and we deal with automation, Splunk, app dynamics. And I primarily do infrastructure services, so do a lot of things around vSphere, NSX, VRA. So a lot of those technologies, a little bit of EDI.
You're at VMworld. Maybe start and saying what brings you to VMworld? What's your position here?
I've been coming actually since 2011, and sort of through my career I've focused on infrastructure services. So going from physical, way back when I started, looking at storage and networking and servers, to now sort of the whole virtual world. So I've kind of come every year to just sort of gain newer insights, newer knowledge on the technology that VMware and then partners I've created over the past year, and looking forward to what they're going to be doing.
So the virtual environment is obviously something that's becoming a very big issue, and in the space that IGEL plays, where you got a lot of people out at the edge, small businesses or businesses that have people who work at home, work in remote offices, retail, healthcare, and so on, is a space where creating great virtual environments is critical. Where do you see that space, and how have you seen it evolve over the last few years? Because it's obviously evolved very quickly.
As we look at how people's lifestyles are kind of changing. So before, you look back 20, 30 years ago, everyone had a dedicated office. You got up, you went to work, you sat at the office for 8 hours, and then you went home. Well, people now, they have, other commitments, kids in school and football practice and, soccer practice type of stuff. Other types of, things going on in life, and, being able to have sort of a remote office has sort of become key in typical America's lifestyle.
Part of that is the increase in mobility. So the last few years, obviously everyone's mobile. Younger people coming into the workforce are all using their phones as their primary device. So how's that changed the environment as you're part of it?
You're not tied to a desk anymore. Right. So you can go out and you can sit at a coffee shop and have meetings with other people, engage with different different people from different industries and different companies, and be more productive. Instead of having to have a meeting sitting there at a desk and physically be there, you can go meet at a coffee shop and be more friendly.
And as an infrastructure guy, what's the change? So there's a whole lot of new challenges. You say, okay, so we want to put more power, more control, more flexibility out to Doug, who's in the outskirts of Nevada in his basement in his jammies, and you're trying to build a network for a bank or a retail or so on. So what are the kind of pressures of doing that, and how have you seen it evolve?
One of the aspects is security. So you could. Having a computer sitting there on a desk and you having to go there, it was very easy for the IT people, the infrastructure people, to control, how and when that data is accessed. Now with, the mobility, taking a laptop out to a coffee shop or some other restaurant, and users, they're forgetful, right? They might just leave it there, or hey, listen, I turned my back for 2 seconds and somebody took it, or somebody broke into my car and stole my laptop.
Yep.
I've heard stories of that before. So with virtual desktops now, the data is not on the computer itself. We can keep that data in the data center, keeping it secure.
So security is a big issue, obviously. The other one that we run into all the time is the fact that you're trying to design and architect a network that has, a MacBook Pro that was built this year, and some old machine that, like an IBM ThinkPad from back in the 90s, and your clients are saying, and everything in between, and they're saying, okay, so like, Craig, make it work.
That's definitely a good point, because we're seeing you have MacBooks, you even have multiple generations of those. You have I've got a friend, she's using it's a newer laptop, but for some reason their company's still using Windows 7. You've got Windows 8 and 10 that people are using out there, and all sorts of various types of laptops. Being able to support that from an IT infrastructure perspective is actually difficult when you have to install drivers and other random pieces of software.
So how does a solution like IGEL, where they're literally saying with their UD Pocket, okay, here, take this USB, plug it in your machine, it'll power up virtually, you can give it to 100 people in retail, kids who are working part-time, who have no experience with doing anything other than on their phone. We'll give them a consistent experience. It'll be secure. How do you see that as an offering? Is that a pretty powerful offering?
You definitely benefit from the security aspect of VDI itself, but then also I don't have to support 100 different laptops and 100 different types of problems that can exist.
Yeah.
It's a little USB thing. You shove it in, and there you go. It just pops up and works.
Have you actually? Are you in the conversations you had with these guys? Have you seen the actual IGEL product working?
Yeah.
And so, can you tell me what you think about it?
It was a very easy thing watching the demo. I mean, we just took the IGEL USB key, put it in the computer and booted it right up.
So what does that kind of solution mean to you as someone who's architecting networks? And obviously, the technical complexity of what you do is above and beyond me. I just go, wow, it just works, cool. So these kind of products and services, how are they helping you as an architect?
IGEL takes that dependence off of me and having to try to support all those different types of devices that exist out there.
Because basically it's a consistent experience out there?
Yes, it's very consistent.
We were talking to someone yesterday who worked at a large retailer, something like 5,000 stores. They deployed IGEL, thousands of them, and I think the number in the end was they had 5,000 endpoints and they had one IT person, which is a pretty crazy ratio. And every company in the world would go, oh my gosh, how do I do that? That's changing the whole paradigm of what support means, is it not?
Having IGEL's solution with one USB key in in a laptop, he can one person could technically support many thousands of different machines that way. So you're really reducing the cost of running IT operations.
And where do you see this all going? So, one of the conversations I've had, again, as the outside guy, I'm not a technologist, there's been a shift from kind of the data center and the IT guys, where all the focus has been, and the last 5 years is all about cloud, 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 cloud. But what's the experience for the person who's using it, in the retail store, the 18-year-old kid who's working part-time? Where do you see the evolution of end-user computing going?
You're not stuck to particular types of devices anymore. You can basically use any device that you want now.
And so what does that mean to you as like a network architect? Your job used to be fairly manageable, as you said at the beginning, because okay, I got 4,000 ThinkPads on desks, or with some combination of desktop machine, and I can manage all that. They're all inside the firewall. And now you got, okay, I have to provide that to Android devices, Windows phones, iOS devices, iPads, Surfaces, blah blah, spread all around the world. So to me, that's taken what was controllable, as you said, and kind of blown the walls out. So I'm curious as where you think it's going, and then where does the ability to plug this little thing in, where do you see that going?
Some of the trouble is, we were able to control those things being inside the firewall before. Now we can't control them, and as users keep acquiring newer and different devices, different formats of devices. We're seeing, it used to be, you had a cell phone and you had a laptop. Now we're seeing iPads and other types of cell phones with different sizes, things like that. This solution could definitely, fit any one of those devices.
What are the couple of things that you think anyone coming into this space has to solve? You talked about security. What else do you look for as an architect? If a client's coming to you saying, all right, help us design a solution to this, what do you tell them?
Not only security, but also connectivity. How do you get connected? You're having different types of networks. If I'm sitting at home, chances are I have some type of broadband, whether it's cable or fiber, that type of thing. That's typically easier to deal with. But now with 4G, LTE being out there, we've got devices that can access, my infrastructure, the core infrastructure, really from anywhere. So being, a device being very resilient, very, stable and secure is becoming much, much more important, as well, with these different types of ways to connect into the data center.
Is your job getting harder or easier?
The easier parts is I'm not supporting as much hardware anymore, especially coming out to the cloud. So taking advantage of either VMC or AWS or any of these other cloud infrastructures. But not having those things right within my building, the same building, that actually does present different challenges as well. I'm offloading. I'm not having to replace hard drives anymore, but yet my infrastructure is somewhere else in the world. And that enables, some other challenges in, okay, how do these devices, how do these, people with, remote desktops, how do they access, those environments?
Isn't that, and that's what IGEL's trying to solve, right? Is
exactly.
Plug and play.
Yep. Yeah, you take the, little IGEL device, put it in the computer, and, based on the parameters and things that we've already given it from an IT perspective, it's able to actually connect to that virtual infrastructure very easily.
Cool. Do you have any perspective on IGEL's product offering versus the competitive product offerings that is of any value?
I think, other solutions, will have you actually install software natively within the OS. Well, in that case, we're still having to support, the operating system itself, drivers, those types of things that are around it, versus simply having a single point solution for that. So, it's all floating off IT operations, like you mentioned. The one company that they got one IT person. They've got to support 4,000 different nodes. Well, how do you do that easily? It's just very difficult to support that amount of infrastructure with one person.
Craig, thanks a lot for being with us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate this.